Hi YouTube, this is Lose-A-Lot Care Bear. I am ashamed and horrified at the idea of going back and seeing how long it has been since I've posted a video, because I know it's probably been 6-8 months, maybe even a year. Don't think it's been quite a year, so hopefully it hasn't been too long, or you guys haven't forgotten about me. But and I just want you to know that I have thought about you guys very often. Every single night I think, okay, I'm gonna put the kids to bed and then I'm gonna do my video. And every night I put the kids to bed and then I get into my pajamas and I think, I really don't feel like doing a video in my pajamas. So here I am in the middle of the day. My daughter is at school, my son is inside on the computer watching some videos and some TV, and then I figured I'll take a few minutes and do this real quick. So I wanted to go over 3 different questions that I'm going to give answers to today. The first question being, what is the hardest part of living with weight loss surgery today? Number 2, why is it hard? And number 3, how do I deal with it? So the first one, what are the hardest parts, or what is the hardest part of living with weight loss surgery today? I still feel like one of the hardest things for me is not drinking with food. I find that as soon as I start eating, I immediately become thirsty, and I don't know whether it's because I know that I'm not supposed to drink when I'm eating, so it's like that's like all I can think of. And it got to a point, well, like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, that I finally sat down and realized I've got to stop doing it, because I was just like, well, I'll just take a sip, and then, okay, well, I'll just take 1 gulp, or, you know, just this meal, I will take, 3 gulps while I'm eating. It's not really going to hurt. But kind of like the way overeating happened, or unhealthy snacking happened before surgery, like, tonight, oh, I can have all of these chips because it's just one night. And then the second night, it's like, well, you know what, I can have all of these cookies tonight because it's just one night. And then the next night, and here we are, 13 years later, of one really bad night after another. So I could kind of see that pattern continuing to happen, even though I'm not eating cookies and chips and, that kind of stuff at night. I am noticing that the little things that I know I shouldn't be doing are being justified because it's just gonna be this time. And so I was always kind of under the impression that if I ate something and then I drank something, that it would like kind of flush it out of my stomach, and I knew that that was what they were not wanting us to do. But what I learned was that not only does it flush it out of your stomach, it still puts it in your intestines, where it will be absorbed, and you will still consume all of the calories, all of the nutrition, all of the bad nutrition, sugar, calories, everything, but it flushes out your stomach, so you no longer feel full. So now you're not only getting all of that negative nutrition if it's something bad, because I was like, okay, well, I'll have this cookie and then I'll drink some milk and then it'll flush it out of my stomach and it will be kind of like I didn't have it. Like, what kind of a genius would that have been for me to have realized? Was I the only one who was thinking that was going to work that way? But anyway, so what I was doing was I was eating a cookie, I was drinking milk, I was flushing the cookie out of my stomach into my intestine, where I would completely absorb all of what the cookie had to offer me, and then I didn't have anything in my stomach, so I was now hungry again for something else. And so I was almost doubling up on calories in a certain way. It was like I wasn't getting the full effect of being able to eat less often. Also, I would find that I was pushing my pouch a little bit. Instead of envisioning my pouch on a plate, I was starting to eat based on my, eyes are bigger than my stomach kind of a thing. It was like, oh, well, I want a bite of that, and I want a bite of that, and I want a bite of that. And instead of really only taking a bite and a bite and a bite of it, I've never used a big plate again since my surgery, never ever. I've always used like a dessert plate or a tinier plate, but whereas before I would even tone down the amount of food that was on the small plate, now I was putting bigger food. So I was noticing bad habits kind of starting to form a little bit, and so that was really scary for me, was just continuing to try and envision. And I've really tried to mark a half an hour. If I eat something, then I don't take a drink of something for a half an hour, and if I absolutely need to have something, I will take a sip, but it will just be like just enough to wet my tongue kind of a thing. But that I really try not to do that very often. I also struggle with feeling failure if the number on the scale goes up at all or isn't matching what I expect for it to. I feel like what I've set for myself is a range that is acceptable, and then putting a cap on it so that I know that if I am at that cap, then I know that I need to either adjust my food intake, or I need to adjust my exercise. Now, I walk my daughter to school and then I walk back home 4 days a week, and it's a mile there and a mile back. So I do power walk 2 hours a day. And I love that. I love having that ability to, be confident I will be getting in some sort of an exercise at least 4 days a week. And I wish it were more. I still wish, like, I've been to the gym recently with my sister, and I was able to still run, and it felt great, and I was able to run for a long period of time-wise and distance, and it was great. But I don't have that freedom yet, to really be able to do that, because my son is still home with me during the day. So I think he's going to start preschool this summer, so I'm really hoping that will be able to open me up to be able to just take a run or a jog or something. Once it warms up during the summer, then I'll be able to swim, that kind of thing. But so the second question, why is it hard? Those kinds of things. My last one, the hardest part of living with weight loss surgery today is knowing that my husband really misses my curves. He really did love me for who I was before we got married, and he really appreciates a curvy girl, and I have very little curves now. Even my butt is very, very flat, and I still have a waist, but it's not a voluptuous waist, and my torso, chest area is much more diminished compared to what it was, before surgery. I seem to have lost a significant amount of weight in my chest. And I feel great in clothes, and I feel great outside of clothes, but I miss him really, really appreciating me. And so it's like we are constantly having this discussion, like, why don't you love my body? And he's like, I do love your body. I do love it. And, but I feel like I need reassurance more so now than I ever did when I was heavy, because he just was very vocal about how much he really liked me, before the surgery. So that's kind of how, how I deal with it. With the drinking, with food, I've just really reminded myself why it is that they ask us not to do that. Pushing the pouch, and I really have been trying to refocus my portion size so that it is, just like, a golf ball size of food instead of, a tennis ball size of food. So with feeling the failure of the number on the scale, I've really just, setting that cap for myself and allowing myself a window is the way that I've been able to deal with it. And then regarding my husband's missing my curves, because he does say that he loves my body, I insist that he, tell me that he does at least twice a week, that he remind me without me having to ask, that he does love it. So, but I do have to say that, even though these are difficulties that I do experience, nothing compares to the difficulties that I had pre-op, and I would do it all over again without question. I look back on the pre-op me, and I remember what a strong person I had to be, and what a strong person I was. I'm actually going to read this. I have it easy now. I may have been weak in my resolve, but back then, but had to be strong to survive each day smiling. Can anyone else relate to that? Like, I feel like where before I was really weak in my resolve, like I said, and being able to not overeat or make the best choices health-wise, I don't have those same problems now. But I had to be strong because I had to be happy with who I was on the inside, despite what I felt on the outside. And I find it so much easier now because I am so treated differently by the public. I cannot get over how different I'm treated and how much more willing and joyful people are to serve me or to help me or to, I don't I'm not treated like I'm a burden like I was before, and I really never realized that I was that way that I was treated that way, because I was always such a positive person. I would always try and be very positive, and I just thought people were just jerks. And now I see such a difference in the way that I'm treated, and it bothers me to know that people are treated so differently because of the way that they look. But I had to be stronger then. Life is much easier now because I'm treated differently, and it's a sad thing to think about, but it's a difference that I appreciate being here. You know what I mean? It makes me sad for those who aren't in my position now, and it makes me treat people of all shapes and sizes the same, because I recognize how important that is. Another thing that was really difficult was probably about 6 months ago. A family member of mine actually said, "You look like you filled out and gained a little bit back." Now let me go ahead and talk to you about my numbers. The very, very, very lowest I ever was 132. I'm about, at the end of this month, at the end of March, I will be 2 years post-op. My goal from my doctor was 135, and right now I range between 138 and 142. Today I was 141.9, I think. So, yeah, I have gained back, you know, from my lowest almost 10 pounds, but from my goal only 5 or 6. But I find that it affects my day if I step on the scale and I'm up anything. I feel like, oh, my clothes don't fit me very well, and I can't imagine that 2 pounds really is going to make that big of a difference in the way a pair of jeans fit or a t-shirt fits. But I feel like my self-image and self-worth is still so focused on that number so often. And then I have to remind myself that I'm so healthy and I'm such in a different place than I was before, that I have to remind myself how happy I am to be where I am right now, to be, you know, at the end of the journey that I started when I went to the doctor for the very first time and made that choice to have weight loss surgery. But that it is still continuously a day-to-day thing that I have to work on. So just, you know, really basing my self-worth and how I feel about myself based on what other people think about me or are saying about me or see in me. I know that a lot of people thought when I was at my lowest that I was too thin, and they were worried about me. And I felt my greatest because I was like, I never thought I'd be this thin again or thin ever. And, you know, so I know that if I were to work out more, or if I were to, really focus more on a eating plan, that I could get back down to the 135. I could lose that 5 extra pounds that I feel like I have that I don't want. But I also have to remind myself that I'm living in it with a family who, you know, isn't restricted in the same way food-wise that I am. And so I do have to feed a normal family. Now, speaking of my family, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, and I'm very happily married, almost 8 years next week. And my husband, you guys saw him on the videos that we did on the way to the hospital the day of my surgery. He is overweight, and I wouldn't say he really struggles with his weight because he doesn't really put a lot of effort into losing weight. He wishes he were thinner, but he's not, he doesn't obsess about it like, you know, I think a lot of women do. But my daughter is very aware of food and of, like, she witnessed my weight loss surgery and the loss of weight. And we talk a lot about her food choices and about exercise and about being healthy. You know, she'll be eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and she'll say, "Mom, is this good for me?" And I'll say, well, we'll break it down. Okay, well, the bread has sugar in it as a carbohydrate, but it also has grain. The peanut butter is a protein and it has oil. And then the jelly is sugar and some fruit, you know, depending on the kind of fruit. And I said, so in moderation, it has things that we need, you know, but the protein is good for you, and you do need a little bit of fat. And, you know, so we talk about food, and I want her to grow up aware in a different way than I did. You know, we talk about whether or not you're feeling hungry or whether you're just feeling snacky, because if you're feeling snacky, that's fine. You can go in and grab a bag of carrots or grab a baggie of goldfish. But if you're hungry, I'll make you something to eat. But don't say I'm hungry if you just feel like you want to be snacking on something. And, you know, so, and she's very aware of, like, hey, I finished my food, and if I offer her seconds, she'll say, no, I'm okay, even if it was really good, even if it's a dessert of some sort, you know, not that I offer seconds of dessert, but like if it's, You know, she has a cookie and I'll say, do you want another cookie? And she'll say, no, that's okay, I'm good. You know, so she's aware of it, but I feel like I'm I battle in my heart about teaching her, you know, balancing between teaching her about health and exercise and the dangers of being unhealthy and overeating and making wise choices food-wise, without crossing over into presenting fat as being a negative personal quality, because I have so many of my family members who are still overweight, and I don't feel like I was a bad person because I was fat at one point. And I know that she has the gene to be overweight, so does my son, but like I feel like I don't want her growing up thinking anybody who's overweight is a bad person. I don't want, it's a very difficult thing for me to balance. That's one thing that I want to impress upon her about how important it is to be healthy, without, on the flip side, making it seem like if you're unhealthy, you're not worthy of love, or you're not, you'll never be really happy, or, you know, all of the other things that are not true, but I think society kind of pushes on us. So if you guys have any advice on maybe how I can present that, like I want her to know that it is unhealthy, but I don't want her looking at her father and my husband as being disgusting, or, you know, because I don't see it that way, even though I felt that way about myself. You know, it's a very hard thing to balance, because I do love my husband no matter what. I want him to be healthy, and I want him to be healthy for me and for the kids, and he's the sole provider in our family. So I do desire that for our family, but I don't require it from him in order for him to be valuable to us. So those are kind of the notes that I had. One more question. I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm not sure how long I've been talking. Somebody asked, is it hard to remember what it's like being fat? And it's a funny thing, because I still every day wake up in amazement when I put my clothes on and I feel comfortable. You know, ultimately the answer is absolutely no way is it difficult to remember it, because if I let myself forget it, I feel that my journey would be pointless. So I really feel like it's important for me to always remember what I don't want to be. Again, I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want to be a financial burden because of my level of health. I don't want to feel the way I felt ever again. I want to be healthy and happy the way that I am forever, you know. So I don't know if that's interesting to anybody. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I will definitely respond. You know, if I can put out another video soon, give me some more things to talk about. I have a note here to look up my psych evaluation homework and check to see if there is anything that might help others now. So I will try and do that for the next video that I make, and I hope it's, you know, before I celebrate my 3-year post-op anniversary. So anyway, you guys have a great rest of the spring, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Alrighty, talk to you later. Bye.